My first love. I am an old man now, but I still remember my first love. It was many years ago, when I was young and full of dreams. I lived in a small town where everyone knew each other. Life was simple, but I was happy. One day I saw her. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. Her name was Emma. She had kind eyes and a bright smile. When she laughed, it was like music. From that moment, I knew I wanted to talk to her, but I was shy. I did not know what to say. Every time I saw her, my heart beat fast. I tried to act normal, but I felt nervous. My friends laughed at me. Just talk to her, they said. But it was not easy. One evening, I saw Emma sitting alone in the park. The sun was setting and the sky was orange and pink. The air was cool and the sound of birds filled the trees. It was the perfect moment. I took a deep breath and walked towards her. "Hello," I said. My voice was shaking. She looked up and smiled. "Hello," she said back. My heart felt light. It was the beginning of something special. We talked for a long time. She told me about her favourite books and her dreams. She wanted to travel and see the world. I listened carefully, afraid to miss a single word. Her voice was soft and sweet. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about her smile, her laugh, and her dreams. I knew I wanted to see her again, but I did not know if she felt the same way. The next day, I went back to the park, hoping to see her again. Would she be there? Would she remember me? My heart was full of hope and fear. The next day, I walked to the park early. My heart was beating fast. Would Emma be there? I sat on a bench and waited. The wind was soft and the sun was warm. Children were playing and old men were talking. But I was only thinking about her. Then I saw her. She was walking with a book in her hands. My hands felt cold, and I did not know what to do. Should I call her name? Should I wait? Before I could decide, she saw me. She smiled and walked toward me. "Hello again," she said. I smiled back. "Hello, Emma." She sat beside me. "Do you like books?" she asked, showing me her book. "I do," I said, though I was too nervous to read. She laughed. "Then tell me, what is your favourite book?" I thought for a moment. "I like stories about adventure and love." Emma's eyes shined. "Me too. I dream of travelling to new places, meeting new people, and finding great stories." I listened to her talk. Every word felt special. She had big dreams, and I wanted to hear them all. That afternoon, we talked for hours. We laughed, we shared stories, and we felt like old friends. When the sun started to set, Emma stood up. "I have to go home," she said, "but I'll be here again tomorrow." My heart felt light. "I'll be here too," I said. As she walked away, I smiled to myself. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something wonderful. The next day, I arrived at the park early again. My heart was full of excitement. Would Emma really come? I sat on the same bench and waited. The birds sang in the trees and children ran across the grass. But I only looked at the path, hoping to see her. And then she came. She wore a light blue dress and her hair shined in the sun. She smiled when she saw me. "You are here early," she said. "I wanted to make sure I didn't miss you," I replied. She laughed. "That's sweet. Shall we walk today?" We walked slowly through the park. Emma talked about her dreams. "I want to be a writer," she said. "I want to tell stories about love and adventure." I listened carefully. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "Your words already feel like magic." She blushed. "Thank you. What about you? What do you dream of?" I thought for a moment. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But right now, I just want to spend more time with you." Emma looked at me, surprised. Then she smiled. "That's a nice dream too," she said softly. We sat under a big tree and watched the sky. The clouds moved slowly, like soft waves in the ocean. "I like days like this," Emma said. "Simple and happy." "Me too," I whispered. As the sun began to set, she stood up. "I have to go," she said. "But let's meet again tomorrow." I nodded. "Yes, tomorrow." She waved and walked away, and I knew deep inside that tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The next morning, I woke up with a smile. Today, I would see Emma again. I wore my best shirt and combed my hair. I wanted to look nice for her. Then I ran to the park, hoping she would be there. Emma was waiting by the big tree. When she saw me, she waved. "Good morning." "Good morning," I said, trying not to show how happy I was. We walked side by side, talking about everything. She told me about her favourite books. I told her about my childhood. "You must have many stories," she said. "Maybe one day I will tell them all to you," I replied. She smiled. "I would love that." We reached the lake in the park. The water was calm, reflecting the blue sky. Then I threw mine. It went a little farther. "You win," she said, laughing, "but only this time." We sat near the water, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. The wind was gentle, and the world felt quiet. "Do you believe in love?" Emma suddenly asked. Her question surprised me. I looked at her and saw the soft light in her eyes. "I think love is the most beautiful thing," I said, "but it is also the most fragile." Emma nodded. "Yes, that's true." For a moment we just sat there, looking at the water. I wanted to tell her how I felt, but the words didn't come. "I should go home now," Emma said, standing up. I felt a little sad, but I smiled. "See you tomorrow?" "Of course," she said, "tomorrow." And just like that, she was gone. But my heart stayed full of her laughter and the warmth of her words. The next day, I waited for Emma at the park. My heart was beating fast. She arrived with a bright smile. "Good afternoon." "Good afternoon," I said, smiling back. We walked along the path, talking about little things. The weather was nice and the sun felt warm. Emma stopped and looked at the sky. "Do you ever wonder about the future?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said, "but I like today more than tomorrow." She laughed. "That's a good way to live." We sat on a bench watching the birds. I wanted to tell her my feelings, but I was afraid. Before I could speak, she stood up. "I have to go home now." I nodded. "See you tomorrow?" "Yes," she said, waving. "Tomorrow." I watched her leave, feeling something new in my heart. The next morning, I woke up early. My mind was full of thoughts about Emma. I walked to the park again, hoping to see her. The sun was shining, and the birds were singing. After a while, I saw her coming. She smiled when she saw me. "Good morning." "Good morning," I said, feeling happy. We sat on the same bench as yesterday. I took a deep breath. "Emma, I want to tell you something." She looked at me, waiting. My hands were shaking. I like you," I said softly. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "I like you too." My heart felt light, like a bird flying in the sky. That day, everything changed. It was the beginning of something beautiful.